What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, The Man Welding. And today I want to talk about smoking weed. I want to talk about why I started smoking weed, how long I smoked weed for, and eventually why I ended up quitting and how I was able to do so successfully. So let's get right into it. Now, guys, like I stated in a previous video, I started smoking weed when I was 13 years old. And basically, from the very first time I ever got high, I really liked it, and I started doing it every day, all day. And, at the time, it felt pretty innocent. It felt like something fun to do with my friends and, kind of being rebellious. And it was just, it was fun. And I think that's probably why a lot of people start using it, is because it's fun, it alters the way you view the world around you, and it is a novel experience, and, it's something your parents don't want you doing, which when you're a rebellious teenager, that is attractive. And there's a whole little counterculture around it, at least there used to be back 20 years ago, like I'm talking about. And it was a good way to make friends and socialize with people, and it starts out really innocent, but it doesn't always end the best. Now, guys, I'm not making this video to shit on weed or to shit on people who smoke weed, but the reality is I smoked weed for 20 years, and I have grown to change my perspective on it, and I want to discuss that in this video. So like I was saying, when I started smoking weed, I was young, I liked it, and we started doing it every day. And the reality is, I basically based my personality around being somebody who smoked weed. And in hindsight, that probably stunted my development. I was never the type of person who really could just smoke a little bit of weed, or who only smoked every once in a while, or would only smoke in the evenings or anything like that. I was the type of person who basically wanted to get high from the moment I woke up, all throughout the day, well into the evening, into the nighttime, and basically wake up and do it all over again. And that was true for a very long time, regardless of whether I was in school, or whether I had to be at work, or whether I had family functions or social gatherings or anything like that. Things have changed, right? Here today, in the year 2023, weed has become much more socially accepted, and it's much more available, and it's much more regulated, and it's much more mainstream. But back, 10, 20 years ago, especially being a young man, a teenager, it was something that I had to hide from the majority of polite society. So that means I spent a whole lot of time throughout the last 20 years getting high as fuck, and then trying to basically disguise the fact that I was high by using Visine and spraying cologne and using mouthwash. And, it just becomes this kind of never-ending process of getting money and then trying to track down somebody who's got some weed and trying to buy it while not getting arrested and not getting ripped off, and getting the best quality and the best quantity that you can, and then going out in the woods or going, to your friend's house whose parents don't care, and getting high, and, finding friends who have weed. And, there's a whole lot that went into it, and it took up a whole lot of my time. And in hindsight, I realized that was a lot of precious time where I was basically squandering my potential to be better than I am and that I was. So, guys, I said that all that weed smoking, it really kind of stunted my development. And I believe that to be true, not only on a physical level, but on a mental and a social level as well. Now, obviously, I can't undo the past, But as I sit here today, I just kind of recognize these things, and I want to make this video so that maybe somebody sees it and realizes this about themselves and they can rethink the decisions they're currently making. So like I said, I was using it all the time, and I was constantly trying to secure it, find it, buy it, smoke it, hide the fact that I was using it, make sure my room didn't stink, getting in trouble with my parents, getting in trouble at school. Luckily, I was always able to avoid getting in trouble with the law, but that's not to say that I didn't have some very close calls and that I escaped some situations that would have landed me having a criminal record by the skin of my teeth. And so basically, guys, I continued to use weed every day throughout basically all of middle school, all of high school, and that culminated in me actually being expelled from high school like 2 weeks before I was going to graduate my senior year. Now, that's a story for a different video. I'd be happy to share it, but that's not the point of this video. So anyways, I got expelled from high school. Didn't stop me at all, didn't make me rethink my decisions. I was just like, fuck it, need some more weed. Kept smoking weed, and then I ended up moving up to Tallahassee, and I was smoking tons of weed while I was there. And basically lived up in Tallahassee for 5 years, was a big pothead the whole time I was there. It caused trouble in my relationship because the girl I'm with, she didn't really smoke weed, and she didn't really like the fact that I was using it, and I really didn't care. And there were times where I tried to hide it from her and was lying about using it, and it just was kind of an all-consuming thing where I was just like, weed just takes over. And I know people love to say how it's not addictive and how it's good for you and how it helps a lot of people. And I'm not here to dispute whether it's good or bad or anything like that. But I have some opinions on the matter, right? So anyways, fast forward to today. You guys, it's been almost a full year since I have consumed any type of marijuana. That means smoking bud, doing dabs, hitting vape pens, taking edibles, anything like that, right? I have completely cut out all THC and CBD and all that bullshit, right? And I feel good about that. And really, some of the reasons why I decided that I needed to quit smoking weed for good and stop fucking around so much was because smoking weed changed for me over time. When I was young, it was fun and exciting and carefree. But as I got older, weed started to have a different physiological effect on me to where I could just smoke a small amount and I would have very unpleasant symptoms. Like I would get pretty extreme paranoia and anxiety. My heart would be racing. I'd feel like I was having trouble breathing. I would have tightness in my chest. Just all stuff that should be very obvious to anyone that if you're using something and it's making you feel that way, that you should not keep using it. But the crazy thing is as soon as those symptoms would subside even a little bit, I'd be ready to smoke more and get high again. So it's like when you find yourself in a situation like that, you really need to take a step back and be honest with yourself and question your mentality and like, why the fuck am I really doing this? And I think the fact of the matter is I kept smoking weed for so long because it's what I had always done. And like I said, I kind of based my personality around that. And this is something I've spoken on in other videos, is you guys have to give yourself permission to change and to grow and to become better, because a lot of times we get stuck viewing ourselves in a way like, seeing myself as that same 13-year-old boy, when in reality, I'm not that kid anymore. I'm a 33-year-old man, and I need to act like it and not just hold myself to the standard of who I was when I was a young man or how I saw myself. I was having these really unpleasant physiological and psychological effects. And not only that, but I realized, as you get older, you have more responsibilities, especially financial responsibilities. And the fact of the matter was, I was just spending a whole lot of money on marijuana products. Now, by this time, Florida, the state that I live in, had legalized medical marijuana. So, of course, I went out and I got my medical marijuana card, and I had access to all of the different dispensaries around my local area and throughout the state. And there are quite a lot of dispensaries. It's to the point now where you can't really go a couple miles without driving past a dispensary in Florida. And what I found is that I was spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars every month just getting products. And a lot of times they were just kind of lackluster products. And I was wasting a lot of time sitting in lobbies. And I started to realize when I'd be in these dispensaries, I would look around and I would see that the majority of the people who were there doing the same thing I was there doing looked like pretty much low life men and women. You know, to be brutally honest about it, I looked around and I was like, man, there's a bunch of fucking losers in here. And it's like, is that how people see me? I don't see myself that way, but you know, these are things that I had to start realizing and asking myself. Now, if you're watching this video and you smoke weed and you think, well, fuck this guy, he's saying I'm a loser. I'm not saying you're a loser. I don't ever speak in absolutes and say just because you do this, that means you're this way. I'm just saying the reality is, if you're being honest, you're going to see a lot of low-life, degenerate people who consume marijuana. You know, especially I saw a lot of really questionable parenting behaviors by people who were smoking weed. I saw people who really neglected themselves physically, mentally, neglected their hygiene. They were just kind of piss poor examples of men and women. And I'm trying to hold myself to a much higher standard than being a piss poor individual. You know, I'm really trying to grow and to reach my full potential and be a man that I respect and someone who I would listen to and someone who I would look up to. And I realized that being a pothead was not in alignment with who I was trying to be. So guys, when I was smoking weed all the time, I was basically lacking a lot of self-discipline. Now, in my head, I thought, oh, I'm disciplined, you know, because I smoke weed and I still go to work and I still read and I still go to the gym and I exercise and I cook dinner and I clean. But in reality, I was not a disciplined person. And because when somebody is solely focused on getting high all the time, what that is they are addicted to instant gratification. And I've come to realize that being able to delay gratification is a huge aspect of being a disciplined and a mature adult. So if you're constantly throwing a fit because you can't get high when you want to, or you don't have weed, or you don't have money, you know, it's very immature and it is very undisciplined, and it is very much so seeking instant gratification. And I think adults should be able to withhold gratification. What I also realized is that it stunted my ability to control my emotions. Now, I know it's standard thinking that, oh, when you're smoking weed, you're super chill, you're laid back, you're not going to get violent or aggressive. But I would drive around, guys. I'd be smoking a THC vape pen like all the time, wherever I was going. And I would get severe road rage over the littlest things, to the point where I'd be fucking punching my steering wheel and just like freaking out over pretty small inconveniences. Whereas now, since I have quit smoking weed, I don't ever do that. You know, I have much better control over my emotion and adversity. But instead, throughout my entire life, anytime I felt pain, whether it was physical or emotional, I would run to numb it by getting high and getting drunk and doing other things. But since I've quit smoking, I have learned that it's good to remain present and remain clear-headed when you're going through really hard times. You know, staying present in those moments is what's going to help you grow as an individual and become resilient. And it's always going to be in your best interest to just feel those feelings, whether they're good or bad, and just ride them out with a clear head instead of just constantly running to a coping mechanism, especially a substance like weed. So really, guys, I don't want this video to drag on forever. I'll probably speak on the subject again, but just to summarize quickly, it's been almost a full year since I quit smoking weed. I grew up basically smoking weed all day, every day for 20 years straight. And some of the reasons why I decided it was best for me to quit smoking is so that I could remain present, I could be clear-headed, I could have more money, I'd have better control over my emotions, my health, my time, things like that. You know, I spent a lot less time worrying about what other people were thinking or how I was going to secure marijuana and how I was going to bring it with me, and and whether or not it was going to be an issue here or there. It has just freed up so much mental space. It has given me better control over regulating my emotions. It has allowed me to be more present, more honest with myself. And all in all, it has been a huge benefit to me personally to have cut out marijuana from my life. So guys, thank you for taking the time and checking out the video. I appreciate it. And I'll catch you on the next one.